Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming out. Actually, it's the morning, so I just want to say thank you all for coming out. I know we got some more people coming in, so I really appreciate it. I want to first off introduce you all to the 2018 EKU ASSE student officers. My name is Alex Doherty. I'm the president, and I want to go ahead and introduce our other officers for you all.
Hi, my name is Craig Ward. I'm the treasurer.
Nathan Harrison, co-president.
Hello everyone, my name is Bridget Salyers and I'm the secretary.
Hello everyone, my name is Seth Hunt and I'm the president-elect.
Hey, I'm Ariel. I'm the undergraduate vice president.
I'm John Keith. I'm in charge of PR, and I need all y'all to go follow at ASSE_EKU on Twitter.
Also, I would like to introduce our faculty advisor, Dr. Barry Spurlock.
It's pretty nice when you don't tell them, hey, I'm going to ask you to come up and talk until like 2 minutes before. So I'm glad they did that. So I got a call in 2013. I was sitting in the 20th floor of the LG&E building in downtown Louisville, working a job that probably about 60 to 70 hours a week, kind of like I work here. But I got a call, and it was somebody I'd met before, but I didn't know them that well at the time. And the person was the president of COPA for ASSE. Now, some of you, longer you're in ASSE involved, you'll understand, well, there's a lot of acronyms. COPA is the Council on Professional Affairs. And this guy said, hey, I've been given your name by some other folks who know you in ASSE. We'd like for you to serve on the National Government Affairs Committee. It was just one of those days where the stress was about here, and that phone call came just at the perfect time. And I said, you know what? I'd love to be serving on this committee, National ASSE Committee. Probably one of the biggest honors I've had in ASSE, and I didn't realize it, but that phone call was the start of a really good friendship, and it was for this guy back here. And he is the president of the American Society of Safety Engineers, Mr. Jim Smith. And he also called me not long ago and said, hey, I really like EKU. I'd love to come down there and talk to your students, visit, learn about campus, learn what you're doing because you've got a great reputation. And I said, Jim, we'd love to have you. We'll do everything we can to roll out the red carpet and show you some EKU hospitality, because we're not the only university he's visiting, but we certainly want to be the best. Now, Central Missouri, save that, I know that's your alma mater, but otherwise we really want him to think that EKU is the best program in the nation, so we were glad that he came here. I want to read you a little bit about his bio, and then I'm going to get out of the way. I started to take notes on it, but I said this is just too long. I'm just going to read off my phone, but right now Jim is the corporate director for risk services with Arthur J. Gallagher. It's the 4th largest company of its kind in the world. And Jim is sitting right up there at the top. And before that, he had 18 years in industry. He has a bachelor's and master's in safety from Central Missouri. Like I said, it's not EKU, but we like Central Missouri too. He's been on the board of directors for ASSE for 12 years. And like I said, he served as the vice president of COPA. He's also been the vice president of the Council of Practice Specialties. This is the group that is involved in setting standards and overseeing all those practice specialties. If you're a member of ASSE, you get to pick those practice specialties. He's the guy that was the VP over all of those at one time. He's also been vice president of finance for ASSE, and I could just go on and on and on. He sat on the Government Affairs Committee. He's overseen the National Government Affairs Committee. And, he also won the Edgar Monsanto Queenie Safety Professional of the Year. That is the highest honor given to any safety professional by ASSE. So he's an award winner of that, as well as the Culbertson Award for Outstanding Volunteer Service in ASSE. I could spend a lot of time reading his bio to you. But I'll tell you what's most impressive about Jim is he's just an all-around good guy. And he's very approachable, and he loves students. And I know you want to hear him talk instead of me. So at this time, make welcome the president of ASSE, Jim Smith.
Thank you. I don't want to get too close to these microphones. They keep feedback here. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. I met Barry a while back, like he said, and he's really a good professor. And I know a lot of them, Scotty, you have Blair, Dr. Blair, they've been around a long time. And so, and several others, Dave, I just met, a couple of others. So you have a great professorship. So I'm actually been, put a mission for me as president to get as many universities as I can. I've talked to probably dozens of universities already in my career, but I wanted to make sure that those who are going into this profession kind of understand, what to expect a little bit and what ASSE does. By the way, how many of you are ASSE members, just to show your hands? And that's okay, we'll get the rest of you later on. But I will tell you what ASSE will do for you. I was a student member sitting in the audience like you are at University of Central Missouri. We still call them Central Missouri State University, which is, they changed their name, obviously, a few years ago. And so I was sitting there, and I was a member, but I wasn't really very active. And then I started getting more active as I was getting ready to graduate, because you obviously want to get a job and networking and all that stuff. And then I really got involved in ASSE right out of the bat. My first job, I became an officer of the organization because I volunteered. And I've been a volunteer for about 34 straight years. And it really has allowed me to go up the chain, make more money, get opportunities that I would never have before, and really just help me be a professional and help protect workers, because I can call anybody in the world pretty much and get an answer that I need. There's probably not an industry that has a problem that I can't call somebody who's had to deal with that. And that happens over time. So there's a couple of things I want to do today. I put some slides together. We're going to talk about them. This is just some information I want to get to you, kind of a message. I'm going to try to stop with at least 20 minutes and answer any questions you have. And I would encourage you to ask me any question. Even if I don't have the answer, I'll tell you I don't have the answer. But I do think it's important that if you want to go in this profession and get prepared to do that, you might want to ask some questions about that, and so forth. So let's start a little bit with some slides here. Whoops, sorry, one more. These are the three things I'm really going to talk about the most. The degree that you've decided in being a safety professional, industrial safety, fire, whatever the case may be, what does that mean to you? So we'll talk about that for a second. We want to talk about the networking and American Society of Safety Engineers, soon to be in June, American Society of Safety Professionals. And what does that mean? What can you get from that? Especially those who are not members, or those who are members that don't get involved as much. What does it mean to you in your career? And I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I call it the growth challenge, personal growth challenge. Some of the things that I like to leave with you as you go through it, if you go through your career when you get started right out of school, college, what does that mean? And so some of the things that'll make you important, and you should think about those. And then I'll answer any questions. So first of all, I start out with a slide of most safety professionals. These are the things of what's facing us today. We used to be what we call pretty technical and tactical safety and health folks. You're learning a lot of that technical and tactical stuff right now at each courses that you take. It's the foundation for you, and that's important. But what we're finding ourselves now is expanding our roles and responsibilities, leaps and bounds. For instance, we have the sewage person. This is in my hometown where one of my clients, fatality on the job. And what was really interesting is that they were working a wastewater treatment plant, fell into the tank, they obviously called clarifier, can't get out. There's nobody to help them, no way to get out or escape from this type of design, and he dies. He drowns and dies. And so what happens is, as a safety profession, we're asked to, now we're cutting down our expenses and operations where workers are working by themselves. And this is at night, there's no one to call. What happens if something happens to you? And so these are things that we never faced before, so as professionals, we've got to come up with either use of technology or whatever to come and attack those, and that's happening every day now. This one right here is security. I mean, all the tragedies you've been hearing about for the last year, obviously the one that happened at Broward School District that you just recently, that's one of our clients. And so security, workplace violence, all those things are something that we weren't trained to do. And now we have to participate as part of the team member, not the only one. And again, that's facing us every day. Obviously, new operations, we learn about silica and stuff, so forth. We knew a long time about silicosis. Now the reality is we have a regulation, so we have changing regulations that really affect our profession. And the last is the school bus. School bus is where we have a lot of accidents and injuries. And we're asked to look at the design of the school bus because those steps are different variations of steps. And so if you look at a building and look at stair systems, there can't be a very small deviation with the length of the run of the stair. For school buses, they can be, the first step can be much larger than the second step, and you have a lot of those things. And then also you look at the handrail, and the handrail is not designed for the driver, it's designed for the kids or students that are getting on the bus. By the way, this gentleman right here is an EKU graduate. He's your used to be one of your middle linebackers, Jordan Dalrymple, which we got from your program, and we got it from one of a recommendation from one of your professors. I did, and I interviewed him, and he was 32. He was the 32nd person I interviewed for this one job, and we hired him because of his background that EKU provided him, and the type of personality and work ethics that he had. And of course, he played college football for you as one of your All-American Ohio Valley Conference middle linebackers, and his work, his team effort is really important to us. And we hired him, and he's been hitting the ground running for over a year and a half for us. A really good consultant. But again, we're looking at designs that we never had before. Prevention by design is a big area that we're looking at going into. Oops, sorry. But just I threw a couple of data points out as to what, this is Bureau of Labor Statistics. You can look at that. I suggest as you get closer to graduating, you take a look at that because it will tell you the types of jobs out there, what the industries are hiring. Construction, manufacturing, hospital are seen the three biggest employers right now looking for these types of occupational safety and health specialists, technicians, and engineers. So these are really good tools, but this is kind of give you an idea about the average cost. We have a 10% growth. Most types of professions are seeing the 4 to 6% growth. We're seeing a 10% increase and predicted to be even greater, especially as some of the safety professionals now are getting at the time retirement. We have 52 years old is our average member at ASSE, and a lot of those are starting to retire, making more opportunities for you and sitting in the room. And so those are things you have to be prepared for. So a couple of things. The number one question I always get from colleges and universities is what are the things I need to have? What kind of tools, skills should I have, and what should I prepare for? And so a couple of things, I use this slide, I just kind of condensed the slide to be able to show you some of the things you have to look at as you go through your degree program. Even though you're in an occupational safety and health or industrial safety, there's other courses out there that you might want to think about to support some of the things you have. For instance, if you look at the middle, what senior leadership look at, is right here. This is from one of a well-known consultants that do C-suite training. And they always concentrate on teaching C-suite people, CEOs, how to be, CFOs, how to be successful in an organization. And they usually boil everything down to about 3 things. And the 3 things most senior leadership or CEO suite wants to know is, how do I protect the assets, both human and the business assets? How do I grow revenue or grow profit? And how do I grow people? Well, you're in the same business. That's what we do. We do that. We protect the assets of an organization all the time. We can help grow business by keeping some of the operation expenses down by the things we do. And these are things we have to concentrate on. So a lot of time as we build the technical content, competencies, that's what you're going to get your degree. And some of those things, the next step you have to add is the business value. How do you relate to that? In fact, I got an opportunity to talk just briefly to your workers' comp course that Barry allowed me to speak for a few minutes. But basically we want to talk about why is workers' comp important? Well, it's important because it has a business value to it. Every organization is managing risk. People getting hurt is managing risk. A lot of the new areas are going into what we call human capital, and that's the space we play in a lot. But it does have a business value, and we have to look at how can we use the language to support our programs. So as you get your technical foundation or competencies up with a lot of the coursework you have, and that's critical, by the way, that's the foundation, you'll learn through experiences what's the business values of what you do that translates to your organization you work for. And the better, and I'm repeating, the better you can be able to translate the business value to what you do, the higher you'll go in an organization. No question about it. But you do need the technical side. So we want to learn to communicate some of the business values. We talk about TLVs and TIVs and JSAs and all these acronyms. We have to translate that lingo into some business value. What does it mean? And JSA, or job safety or JSH, job safety analysis and hazard analysis. There's a variety of different topics for it. What does that mean? Well, it means that you can create an operational efficiency and how you do the job better and safer. And so those are the things I'm giving you an example to. Whoops. So this was a study done by ASSE in 2008. We used that model as Barry was talking about. You know, I was the vice president of the Council of Professional Affairs, and one of the things we do is create a business value in the profession and some other things in government affairs and so forth, the educational standards, the ABET type of criteria. That's what we oversee at that council. So we did a study in 2008, 2007, 2008. We interviewed 2,500 different management teams. And this is what managers thought of safety professionals at that time. And again, I caution you, it's in 2008, so things have changed over the last 10 years, and we're building we started building blocks of addressing some of these things. For instance, safety professionals lack business skills. That's not what safety professionals are saying, that's what management are saying. Again, I caution, it's 2008, so we've changed to attack that. We don't understand strategic planning and business plans. I do a strategic plan every single year. We have to do, what are we going to do? What are we going to accomplish? What are the things? Most of our strategic planning for safety matches our organizational vision and mission. It has to, because that's what we're there for. We're supporting operations, whether you're building product, whether you're servicing, whether you're an educational institution, whatever. You have a business model, you have a strategic plan, and your plan has to match that, and what are you going to contribute to that? So they say we lack that. And because a lot of times, most of our organizations, most of the stuff we used to do is what? Compliance, right? Most of us learn a lot about compliance, what the rules say. So what does the compliance mean if you can't change it to the operational exposures? And what's the risk out there? And how do we attack the risk? Everything has risk, right? Everything we do. We drove today to work, to college, right? Today? We drove or drove with someone? What's the risk of that? We kill over 40,000 people on the highway. If you look at the claim numbers, I would say I wouldn't want to get in my vehicle. We have disabled and injured in the millions, right? But yet we accept that risk because we got to get to where we're going. It's the same thing in business risk or safety and health risk, is we have to look at those risks and attack those that are going to cause harm, and look at the ones that we have and try to work with those later on. But the harm ones are the most important, right? And we have to look at what we learn in college today. It's not always about compliance. Compliance is important because it is the foundation or the minimum standards that industry has to comply with. But standards, by the way, are written for across-the-board industries. As a professional, which you will be after you graduate, is your interpretation and application of that standard. And what's the risk of it? Those are the things you have to learn and be able to talk in those languages. We're more reactive than proactive, is what manager said. Our statistics are not meaningful approaches to the business, basically. And we don't get involved in the design phases. Again, we're after the fact. So these are the things we've been working on as the ASSE and making sure our professionals are prepared to answer some of those questions. So what does that mean, what we're doing? ASSE, first of all, created the Prevention by Design. And it basically talks about getting involved in the design phase of whatever you're doing, whether it be laying out, buying another piece of equipment, laying out a facility, or doing something like that. We also have what we call, we're working on Z16. We just launched a standard to create the metrics that has three things. One, it affects the incident rates and make it more clear to understand incident rates. And by the way, how many of you know about OSHA incident rates? How many of you had the opportunity to explain that to a CFO? Multiple times. It's a formula that we use because it's a Bureau of Labor Statistics that we have to capture. And we rely on that quite a bit. And we created the problem. It's a 1959 standard, by the way. In 1961, they edited it, and OSHA decided to use the 61 OSHA record keep, the ANSI record keeping standard to be part of the incident rates. And it's a good tool for that time, but I would guarantee you things have changed today, so we have to create leading indicators. What's proactively we need to measure. The other thing is, how do we take our stuff that we do, the processes, the programs, the procedures, and how we generate a business value out of that. And by the way, I'm talking business value a lot. End of the day, we're there to protect people. That's a given. So we were here to protect workers, and that's what we're hired to do. But at the same time, there's a business component to it. So think about that as you go through some of your educational programs that help you prepare for you for the future. So these are some of the things that managers think we are doing. So let's talk about the degree. How many of you are in the occupational safety and health or industrial safety degrees? Good. We got any fire folks? Good. So, but what we see is it's a degree that you go into that you'll never ever know everything. It's a lifelong learning. Every day I learn something. One of your professors looked at something today, and I said, wow, I didn't think about that. So you learn something every single day. There's not a lot of professions that you go into that you don't learn something every single day. Every day. I guarantee your professors, as they prepare for your educational delivery, they learn something every time by just look at the things they look at, or the networking they have, or the things they review, or the new information comes. The world changes so fast. Choice of industries. What do I mean by that? You've chosen a profession that you can work in manufacturing, you can work at public higher education, public entity, government. You can work in healthcare. You can work in insurance. You can go in any field you want in your degree. Now, how many degrees can do that? There's not a lot of them. In any industry you want to go into that you feel that you like to do as a career, you can do that. The number one question I'll get, and I'm sure I'll get it today maybe, so I'll just answer it right now, is what industry would you go into, Jim, if you were graduating today and I know what I know now? Depends on what you like to do. I go into insurance. The reason why I would have gone I didn't go into insurance coming out of college, but I would have if I did, because a couple of reasons. One, I get to interface with all these different industries. I go from a state government to a higher education to a manufacturing site. I have a team that runs construction. We build in the Port of Everglades. We're building an airport. We're building a courthouse, all these things. And so you learn a lot of different things when you're in the insurance side. And at the same time, it allows you to decide what industry you want to go to. What do you think you like? So that's an option. But you have to make that choice because every industry is different and everything has their challenges and rewards. So what about the noble work? So at the end of the day, as most of us go home as a safety professional, we could feel good that we might have protected somebody from getting hurt. You might have stopped a father, mother, brother, or sister from dying on the job or losing an arm or an eye. That's noble work. So my wife is a nurse practitioner. So she always says she saves lives, and I say, so do I. And so I just don't want them to end up at her facility. And she takes care of them at the end of the day. So it's a great profession. It's absolutely a profession. So if you're having doubts of this profession as you go through your education and career here, it's a great opportunity for you to have a noble work. And you're making solid earnings. Money is going up every day. You've seen the statistics, the OSHA BLS statistics, and I will tell you, those are probably a little light. When you look at the salary ranges, they take a variety of different ones. And we're going to talk a little bit about a few things that we're trying to elevate the profession and also elevating the salary ranges at what we get paid, and I'll show you a couple examples. But it's a solid earnings. The top 25% make over $100,000 a year, and some make over $300,000 a year in this business. So you can make a lot of money, or at least have a solid lifestyle. So what is American Society of Safety Engineers? For those of you who are not members, and those of you who are a member but are not very active, let's talk about what they do. Because this is important. How many of you have other networks beside ASSE? You guys do LinkedIn, social media, anything, right? So what's the purpose of that? Communication, networking, what's happening, right? That kind of stuff. And I'm sure there's other reasons for that. Keep you abreast of what's happening, what's going on in your area or the organization you belong to. Well, ASSE is about that. The networking is phenomenal. I'm going to show you a couple of examples. Somebody asked me at the Future Leadership Conference, which I had 250 plus of leading safety professionals all over the world in a room, and I was speaking at, and as the president, they asked me, what's the thing that you liked about ASSE the most? And I said, helping someone get a job. I've placed a lot of people, I've matched them because they didn't have a job or they lost their job for whatever reason or a company bought them out. And you know them, they call you up and say, hey, here's 3 other jobs. I know the person, I'll give you a call. I'll give them a call. Now, I don't get their job, that person gets their job, but at least the network that allows me to help people change. And the same thing with you. You're going to find out. Anybody been to ASSE job posting? You know, ASSE has a job posting. You can put your resume, you can look at different jobs, right? If you haven't been there, I suggest you go there. Because I hire folks, and I go to that job and I look for people. I'm looking for people that posted those jobs. Or I calling people and saying, hey, Scotty Dunlap, I got a construction opening, I need a construction person. EKU's got a great reputation. You have any graduates that got college construction experience? That's how it works. We network because it's too time consuming and too hit or miss if you just post a job and you just hope somebody applies for it. So most of us in the safety professional business, ask around references, and we go to the sites that we know will get good quality candidates. That's what we're really looking for. And you obviously have them come visit your school, right? And so that's really why it's important. So that job board is really good for you who are going to look for a job. And some of you should start earlier than later because there's great opportunities. And there's a lot of internship programs, by the way. How many do internships? Anybody do internships? So as a hiring professional, one of the things we look for a lot is how many internship programs have you done, if you can. Because we count that as a job experience, by the way. That's important to us. And so you get some understanding of what the job's about. The first day is going to be different, the second day is going to be different, next month, or whatever. But if you get 2 or 3 of these months and you do a couple of times, you'll find that that's pretty great experience. But by the way, for you personally, that allows you to say, I like that industry, or no, this is not an industry for me. So it gives you a chance also to think, is this where you want to work at as well? So take advantage of that if you get a chance to participate in internship programs. ASSE is a knowledge center, meaning you can provide anything you want to know about something. ASSE has that information somewhere. We're actually redoing our website. We put a lot of money into that, so biggest complaint was it's hard to find all this stuff. We don't have a great mapping system in our website, so we just invested a lot of money, 6 figures in an internet system and software and hardware and all that stuff, so we'll be able to get you that information really quickly. We're out right now of trying to create a research agenda where we can actually start doing research that give the tools for you as safety professionals to be able to use and have evidence-based practice when you start looking for that answer you need at your organization. And again, that's an opportunity that will be growing and something you might be interested in. So it's really a knowledge center. And so we're an advocate for the profession, and I'm going to tell you what that means. The idea is to make sure we have positions out there that are well respected in an organization, and the criteria is to enter this profession means something, like the greed, and the salary ranges should be commensurated with the type of things we're asked to do. And that's kind of the advocacy of the profession. So I want to share a story about networking, because this happened a year ago for me. And so what happens is one of my clients had a sanitation trash truck, basically sanitation truck, run over and kill a prominent person in their community. And so what happened was the drivers were complaining about blind spots and what kind of standards we should have for these truck designs. And so I got the call about asking those 3 questions. So the first thing I said to myself is, what do I know about design of a truck, trash truck, or sanitation truck, garbage truck that picks up your garbage? I don't know anything about it. But within 15 minutes, I was able to reach another safety professional who manages 20,000 of these. In less than an hour, I had the standard. I had what the standard design should be, types of cameras you should have, and also consultant. And I turned that information to my client on the consultant. The consultant sent another consultant in the geographical area at no cost to help that client at no cost. Not that I suggest that's going to happen a lot, but that fixed that problem, and they had obviously design issues, and helped them fix their issues that they had. And that's all within 1 hour. So I was calling one of the top experts in this field in the United States within an hour. Is that pretty powerful or what? There's all of them. There's, I can give you story after story after story, and I've helped people as well. That's what networking's about, help you solve problems. Anybody part of the Facebook on young professionals? Well, you will be. Right now, they created a Facebook, and you can see of all the things that people are just starting their jobs, you know, the first 1 or 2 years being on the job, and asking, how do you handle this? I'm preparing to make a executive leadership team presentation. Give me some examples. Can you help me out? And so there's a lot of that happening that allows you to get the networking to help you do your job. And let someone else who's already been through that help them out. It's a great opportunity. So that's what ASSE does. So the other thing is I just was in Singapore and signed for ASSE, American Society of Safety Engineers. We signed on to the Singapore Accord. Anybody read about that? Good. Basically, the Singapore Accord was something that we've been working on for 4.5 years with companies like Russia, Australia, Canada, UK, Singapore, Korea, et cetera, Italy, to create what's the global framework for occupational safety and health professional. In other words, what are the attributes, abilities, skill sets, knowledge that each one of you have, whether we're in Singapore, whether we're in Canada, whether we're in UK, whether we're in Australia, or whether we're in the States, what should they be? And that's what the accord was. They were signed on by 18 different countries, 46 different organizations, and it keeps growing on people. And so that's really what you see. So the idea is to create what they call an occupational barrier. What does that mean to you? That means people entering the safety professional business, they can't be that somebody got hurt and now made them a safety professional. That happens every day today, or has been. You're trying to get a degree and enter this field. And so there's no criteria other than employers for creating that criteria, but you have to have a degree. Well, this is what this occupational barrier is to create that you have to have a degree. And you have to degree either going into profession or practitioner. There's two different levels of definitions. So the idea is that it's really designed to protect you. You there going to get a degree. When you can get a degree in this field and you want to enter this profession, that's what the barriers there to protect you and compete. Whether you have to have that same degrees, where you don't hire somebody that doesn't have has less experience or any degrees at all, and that diminishes. What happens is that brings down the salary ranges that we're getting paid. Why? Because they're not qualified like you would be as a degree person. That's the key, is to create a faster maturation of the profession, increase our salary ranges because we're required to have certain things, knowledge, skills, and abilities to enter this profession, right? Right now, we have about 70 people, 70% of our ASSE members, I think it's 69%, something like that, has degrees. I mean, a full degree. So we want to be 100% someday. And so ultimately, every organization, or I should say almost every organization, because there's always exceptions to everything, the best companies that have the best injury reduction outcomes have the best safety professionals or qualified safety professionals managing, running, and coordinating and influencing their safety program. And so we have to bring that to every organization, because I can tell you a couple of things. One, killing 5,000 people on the job is unacceptable every year. Disabling or injuring 2.9 million people on recordable injuries is unacceptable every year. Spending over $100 billion on direct costs on workplace injuries is unacceptable. And the list goes on and on and on. Those numbers are not acceptable. We need better, more qualified safety professionals. We have a lot of them, but we need more. And that's what EKU's doing. They're preparing you to be the next one. And we need more of those. We don't produce enough graduates in occupational safety and health to fill all the jobs we currently have. Every university that I go to says they have 100% placement. They cannot find, we cannot produce enough of you out there for the jobs out there. And that's a heck of a position to be in. And that's what the degree's about, isn't it? Doing something noble, something that'll earn you a living, protect others, and you can get a job at the end of the day. Because I can tell you right now, you can go on a lot of different degrees, and they're struggling to get jobs. There's not enough work for them, professional work. So you've chosen a profession that really is going to give you an opportunity for a career if you decide to go there. By the way, I'm being on the insurance side, you fire folks, we don't have enough property fire. They're all retiring. We can't find enough property engineer, what we call property engineers. They do fire exposures and stuff like that. One thing I would suggest that you learn is roofing design and so forth, because they're looking at property engineers as they do their audits, inspections, because we need more of them. We don't have enough of them. They're all retiring. Is to be able to do roof inspections and things of that nature. That will help you, by the way, if you decide you want to get in the insurance business. Because those two things are the biggest things we look at. Whether you're in Florida, California, even here, those are important. The fire protection engineers are really hard to find. We don't have enough of them. And most of them are retiring. Make sense so far? Again, this is just a snapshot of what's in the Accord. I don't want to go all through that. But it's just, the idea is about helping you understand that there are going to be occupational barriers in the future. It may not be tomorrow, but it will be. Some countries have already started, like Singapore. And SIA, which is the Australian, like ASSE, they're looking at that stuff. The Canadians as well. By the way, the Canadians, two of their universities produce occupational safety and health. They don't have it, I don't know if it's called a degree, I think it's a diploma maybe. But they're looking at the criteria. They changed their core training courses to match this Singapore Accord, to make sure that they're training the right topics to be able to give you as a profession when you graduate. I want to leave a few things with you, then I'll open up for questions. How am I doing at time, Barry? All right? So far, all right? Okay. Integrity. What does that mean? Your word is good. You've heard all this stuff. One thing I always try to tell everybody, there's only one person can take your integrity away, and that's you. In this business, you'll be challenged. People will like you to do certain things. They might want you to walk by something. They may not want you to do something. So think about that, your integrity. Everybody works in teams. Individual contributors are fine, but you're going to work in teams today. That's just the way it is anymore. So you might have engineering operations yourself, the risk manager, etc. Those types of, that's what I mean by teams. The other thing is the role and responsibilities are growing. So I will leave with you a couple of things, and I'll answer any question you have if I can. So you got to understand a couple of things. One is communication skills are going to be the most critical thing you can do. And I know we get on the iPhone and we text a lot and we communicate and you can gather information rather quickly, but you have to communicate. You have to be able to do that in writing and presentations. The better you are, the higher you will go in an organization, bar none. Problem solving, creative thinking, innovation, how do we look at that? Technology. Understanding technology is critical. We do all our audits, or most of our audits are electronic auditing tool. We use a system called Process Map. We put in all the criteria and everything in our auditing system, so anybody who grabs our auditing system knows what to do. And if you don't understand, when you get to something, you say, okay, what's the slope requirement of a handicap ramp? You just hit a button and we tell you, here it is. It's 1 in 20 or 1 in 12 or whatever the case may be. And so that's what we see technology. We talked about pivot tables and data analysis. Data analysis is the biggest thing that you can learn, because it really allows you to create a strategic plan or a business plan to attack those things that are getting you hurt and those things that are costing you money. So these are some of the skills I would suggest. Questions? All right, I'll answer any questions you have. I know I have a couple more slides, but I probably had enough of me. Somebody's got to have a question. If I can't answer, I'm giving it to Barry. Do the best you got.
So with the rise of exponentially growing force of technology and such, oftentimes we have the ability to look at regulations and codes and such faster than we've ever been able to do so before. On paper, that's a great thing, but in your opinion, do you believe things like the ability to instantly communicate by a word without seeing face to face, or being able to look up a particular sentence and a cloud of words rather fast, do you believe that has risen any forms of unforeseen complications that we couldn't receive until we experienced it?
I'm not sure what I'm not sure what context you're talking about, but I can answer that. Let me take a shot at it. If I miss the question, answer the question, just throw it out at me and I'll try it again. Technology, what do you use it for? That kind of thing. You think because you get access to the knowledge real fast, does it create any complications? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. So technology really is a great tool. There's two sides of it, by the way. So when you get in front of an audience, like workers, and you start saying something, they can digitally fact check you real quick. So you better know your stuff. So that's the negativity side. And then they'll say, hey, here's what the regulation says. And then what we're able to do is talk about how it applies, because that's really, it's not about knowing just the regulation, it's about application of that regulation in the situation you're at. So, but technology is a really good tool. For give you an example, there's technology now that when people working outside, like on wind tunnels, wind devices, wind instruments that create power, they can actually get a report on the weather real quick right there and then. Heat stress. You heard of heat stress, right? There's an app right there where you can have the workers, and we train workers. Put the app on there and says, okay, you have a heat stress. Well, I'm in Florida, so the heat stress index is always challenging every summer. But at the same time, they'll say, okay, you need to do this, this, and this. Get shade, drink water every 20 minutes, etc. So those apps, technology allows you to do really well. Some of the things we're toying about in technology is like fast food services. You have over 150% to 500% turnover. So after you train me as a new worker and you onboard me with safety, I quit the next day. I'm right back to someone else. So how do we do that? We could use app technology to be able to help get that information out. I will tell you that online training, a lot of it really does it help you? Does it have what we call knowledge transfer? Does it help you? In some cases, it's okay, depending on the complexity of it, meaning that all that means is that sometimes there's a lot more problem-based scenarios and on-site training that you need to be able to have knowledge transfer where a PowerPoint or a video is not going to be able to do it. So there's a lot of combined stuff like that. I'm hoping I'm going in the right direction for your answer. So it's good and bad, but I think there's a lot more utilization for it. And if I was you in technology, you had to use it to augment your program. Those things. But like I tell you though, you get in front of a course and you say something, They can fact check you real quick and make sure you, my daughter does it all the time, so I have to watch what I say. Because I'm not talking factual, I'm talking about this is what I want you to do, which is much different. So I hope I answered your question, I hope I didn't confuse the answer.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, make me fly here for 5 hours here and not have only one question.
Don't worry.
Safety is a relatively new topic in the United States, and I'm always asked, why do I want to be a safety professional? I was just wondering, what drove you to be a safety professional and when?
Very good question. First of all, most of the people, when they talk to you, they don't ask you to be a safety professional. When you say you're a safety professional, you go, oh, you're OSHA. Well, we got to get out of that mindset, number one. So why did I choose to go in there? That's a great question, because I didn't come to be a safety professional. I was going in to be an FBI agent. I wanted to go in criminal justice, and my dad is a police officer, and he said, you're not going to be a police officer. It's just that changing environment back then. So I said, okay, well, I won't be a police officer, I'll be an FBI agent. That's what I wanted to do. So I actually was going to criminal justice. I was in the criminal justice building, was the same where the safety, occupational safety health courses were being taught, and I was lost. And so one of the professors, like most of you probably in this room, or some of you anyway, the professor says, hey, have you ever thought about going to occupational safety and health? And I said, or industrial safety. I said, what's that? I have no idea what that is. So they tried to explain it, and I said, okay, which is right next door to the industrial, the civil, where I was going, where my rooms were, was right next to all the safety programs. So I actually enrolled it, and I really liked it. The reason I liked it is because I've always wanted to be a manager. I think that's because of all the types of jobs I had. I said, one day I'd like to be a boss. It allows me to be a manager, but at the same time, I'm on the line, on the floor. So that's what I enjoyed about it. Gotta get some water. So that's my story. I went into it because I liked to be able to be a management position, because they obviously pay a little more money than being on the floor on sometimes. And I'm there working with the workers every day. And that's why I chose this job. Another question?
Yes. Yes, sir. I have another question. How do you feel American safety programs are compared to, say, Europe's safety programs? How do you feel we stack up against the rest of the world in terms of our safety programs?
That's a great question, because I've had this debate many times with my colleagues over in UK. I think they do better. Their regulation is based on risk-based. So it's really interesting. We've tried to push that, by the way, meaning that the highest risk areas are being assessed. You're assessing it, basically risk-based is what? Risk identification, risk evaluation analysis, then risk treatment or solutions. And that's how a risk-based approach starts. It's a little more complicated than it sounds, but that's how it works. So a lot of their regulations are risk-based, so meaning that companies get the opportunity to invest in the highest exposures that are going to hurt the most people or seriously hurt the most people. So they have a different regulation than we do. So their data, their claim data is much less than ours. But I always would challenge their reporting mechanism compared to ours. And so those things we have to look at. And I don't believe they track transportation fatalities and injuries. We do some cases. By the way, when we look at 5,000 workers or more getting killed on the job every year, I bet to say there's more than that, because a lot of the transportation injuries aren't captured, unfortunately. We see that in a lot of state data that doesn't track it. So they have a better approach in the risk base, I think, than we do. And they're more heavy in the regulation, meaning that organizations do it. And the other thing they have is a management system requirement. So if you want to work in the UK or the European market, you have to have a safety management system. So you guys heard of ISO 45001? So in 45001, we'll start trying to educate our US-based companies to use safety management systems. By the way, most of the large corporations already use this system, so it's not going to be a problem. It's the middle market or smaller companies that don't use it. Where in UK, you don't get to be a supply chain unless unless you're certified against those types of safety management systems. We don't have that same. We don't have the same in US. So I think that they have those things are much more ingrained in their regulation and how they do business versus US. But US does have some of the most innovative ideas that you'll see. So we're not there yet in terms of some of our organizations. So I'm not sure if I helped you. I like to say they're better in some cases, which they are, and we're far behind in catching up.
You actually respond to the second question, if you could change something without having to go through any of the paperwork or the long list of career politics, if you change something instantly to make the work environment better, what would be the rule that you would change?
I don't have one, I can tell you that. I would say if we could get an occupational barrier to the profession, meaning that you have to have a degree to get in this field, and that we had a stake at the C-suite table more often. Most of us that have a stake at the C-suite table, like myself, is because we earn the respect to do that, but we like to have more access to that. And we need to change our way of thinking, the way we describe our programs and processes that we're going to build, or you'll build in the future. You got to be able to explain to it how it fits in the operational side and what's the value of that. So those things I wish we could change, and C-suite giving us that chance to look at that. But listen, there's no C-suite person who's going to tell you I want somebody to get hurt. They just don't. They got a lot of competing things, and they're thinking that's being taken care of. But the reality is we got to get more buy-in. But we have to do a better job explaining it. Does that make sense, Barry? Perfect sense. Okay.
We got one
How
more.
about somebody in the front now? You guys have been sitting there listening to me. I know none of you even picked up your phone to look at your texts, so that's good.
Right here. Go ahead.
For fire service professionals, what are the benefits of joining ASSE?
That's a good question. We do have a fire protection group in our practice, especially. A lot of those people are in the insurance side and that kind of stuff. I think there's some great opportunity. There's other organizations that cater to the fire, depending on which you go into. But I think fire. I started minoring in fire science. That was my minor, and I changed it a little bit because fire is really important. But what happens in industry for us is that you have other departments that manage that kind of, and they're usually contracted out. But I think there's some great opportunities for us in the fire science area. I think we could do better. We used to be really heavy in fire at the beginning of my ASSE career, but we still have a great network. So I think that they're looking at a lot of good stuff there, but there's other groups that obviously are competing that are much more in favor. What's really interesting is most fire folks that we see out there, they don't do a lot of life safety. Safety professionals still do life safety, and the fire do the protection stuff and things of that nature. So I think we need to do better, and I have to be honest, I haven't been involved as much in the fire protection side, other than the fact they keep trying to hire. I'm just trying to find what we call property loss control person. I'm looking for one right now, so then they're hard to find. They have to travel quite a bit, but it's a great job if you can do that. But they have to go a little bit further than just fire, even though they concentrate on a lot of fire. But I'm not sure. I'd have to get back to you that. But I know they're very active. We have a big group, so forth. We use them a lot when we formulate opinions in government affairs and stuff, where we have to respond. They're the group that we go to and say, hey, we got a fire science question or whatever, can you help us out? They formulate a lot of our opinions like that. But I think we should do more, just as we can do more in transportation.
I could add something to that, Jim. I think the benefit of ASSE to somebody who is also in fire is not to supplant the foundation that you have there, but to complement it. I know working in loss control myself for almost a decade, thought about jumping ship from the company I was working with at one time, got a call from a headhunter. And I can tell you, this was a multi-line carrier, meant they had workers' comp, they also had property lines. And I can tell you, they were just as concerned about my knowledge on the property and fire side as they were what I knew about occupational safety. So I think it's a balance, it adds balance to you. It opens up options that if you're just one or the other, you might have that door closed. So I think it's a compliment, a bookend on the end.
So if you look at the risk profile, if you mind if I digress a little bit on fire, because you have a lot of fire folks here. So if you look at the risk profile of an organization, fire is really important to them because there are a couple of reasons. One is, from the insurance side, it's an immediate loss. So meaning that you have to pay for that claim fast. And by the way, they can shut your whole organization down if you don't have redundancy. So fire is a really important thing, but I would say it's less than 1% of the claims they have. It's very, very few that we have fire events. Other than companies that are international and global, they have a lot of fire in a variety of different countries. And I think maybe because of our fire standards and regulations, and engineers do a lot of the design of that, so you can see that helps a lot. But so it's really important to a company, even though it only is 1%. The work-related injuries or workers' comp, as we were talking about, is about 66% or so, at least 50% of the claims and claim costs they have. But what happens is those that are paid over time could be 5, 10, 12 years. So the impact is not as immediate as a fire exposure. But also, when you look at property, that's what I'm talking about, property claims, it goes beyond fire though. They want, like I said, roofing is a big issue, whether it's snow loads or water puddling or fire case, and or wind exposure. And in addition, is also is the flooding area, what do you do, and stuff like that. So those are a combination of a lot of things. So the more property protection areas you could go into, I guess is what I was trying to tell you, is fire. If you expand that a little bit, man, you can, there's a lot of need out there that's not being met right now. And most of the fire protection engineers out there are older, obviously, and they're retired. Some are just doing part-time. A lot of a lot of insurance carriers are hired part-time. You do this building, so you only work in a few, because they've retired. But there's not enough people out there to help them. And I'm a global organization. I have 25,000, and we write more property broker. We're a broker, not a carrier. And so we have so much property exposures, and we have literally like 5 property protection engineers. That's why we're looking to add as many as we can. So it's important. I hope I answered your question, sorry.
Dr. Stumbo.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith, for coming to EKU. My question was in regards to how politically active ASSE is. Of course, ASSE submits comments to OSHA when OSHA is developing its regulations during the rulemaking process. But are there any other lobbying efforts that ASSE does as a group?
So we do have 2 lobbyists in Washington, D.C., and we don't do too much lobbying type work. What we do is relationship to agencies. So one of the things that's really impactful for, especially as president, when you go to the Washington, D.C., is that the ability for ASSE to get a meeting with any senator or congressman on bills there, because we're well known. We're very effective. Now, we're not the largest. Unions are much larger than we are, and there's other special interest groups like ORC on the business side. But we just we have access just as fast as they do, because the fact is that we're apolitical, so we're not one party over the other. We're actually trying to solve the issue or whatever the claim or issue might be. And so I would say we have just as much a voice as anybody else out there in safety and health requirements. I think where we don't do very well is transportation is an issue. We don't really have a lot of say into that. I mean, even though we have a lot of fatalities as a result of transportation accidents. But on the occupational safety and health, we by far the number one. They listen to us. We actually get the bills way before they're published to review and make comments. Barry participates quite a bit. We're working with agencies right now to get, like NIOSH and so forth, getting information out that they've got some Safe Sound is a new campaign they got, Stand Down, all these things. We're asked to help with our 147 chapters. And so we can get this information out in real time fast. And so we're still continuing to build those relationships, but we meet with them all the time. I meet with the top folks, Lauren, the assistant deputy director. They have so many long titles, I can't catch them, but they're like the second person in charge. We can meet them. I can call and say, hey, I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. on Monday. Can I meet? And they'll usually have an opportunity to meet with them. They'll meet with us. So we have really good influence. I think regulation is really dying right now. It's been tough to get regulations passed. It has been for the last 20 years, so it's not one administration or the other. It's been just that way. But there are other things that we should be doing, outreach programs, alignment, MOUs, those things. We do very well with that. So we have great presence in DC. Any more? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for coming to speak with us today. I want to ask you about ASSE and active comparative research. I wanted to know what its current standing is and then its potential impact when it is here.
Okay, so the question they had is about the Academic Affairs and Research Council. That's a new one that's out right now for a bylaw change. It's trying to take all the student activities, educational standards, and all that and put it into one group for more efficiency. We're still going to do the same things, but we're also going to be ran by professors, business people, and so that's the idea on the academic affairs. So all our student activities that we currently have, we'll start managing from one group, one responsibility. So right now what we have is some professors will be on 3 different committees. And so they only have so much bandwidth. And so we'll be a little more efficient. But it really is to emphasize improving student activities, relationships, and those things. So on the research side we do a little bit of research, but we don't do a lot of emphasis on it. We have to do more research in order to give the professionals what we call evidence-based practice or tools to be better at their job. And so we get a lot of programs that are done by NIOSH and so forth and all that. So the research side is to look at what's our 3 priority areas and go after those 3 priority areas. So far as total worker health, both inside and outside the work, what kind of space we play as a profession. Management systems is another one, and intervention strategies and metrics. Well, how do you measure performance? So those are the 3 things that we think are the most important. And so we've had all kinds of business, research, IOSH, Canadians, the UK. And so research, and we're looking for trying to create a clearinghouse for you to have access to research when you need it. And I'm talking about research to practice stuff, not the stuff that we can't even use or figure, we can't even understand what they're saying on the research thing. We want to know application or practice. Research to practice is so that's what that group is designed to do, start putting more focus on that as a profession. It's the only one piece on the research side we've done a lot, but we've done some, we haven't done a lot. So hopefully it passes. If it passes, then we're going to put together a team, because I'm chairing that group. It's something that I had a passion for in research and academics. I'm a student member. I'm an ASSE student member who's turned president. There's only been two. Darrell Hill as one, and myself as second. And behind me is Rixio Medina, who is the president-elect. He will be the third student member who became president of the American Society of Safety Engineers. So, thanks, good questions. So I'll be around for lunch. I know that most of you have to go back to school or work or whatever.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you coming here. I thank you very much for taking the time out. I hope I'll at least give you one nugget to take away.
Yeah. Jim, we're going to give you a hand, but we want everybody to hang tight just for a minute. I know the officers need to come over. They got something they want to give you. But we appreciate Jim coming. Let's give him a hand. To our faculty from EHS, Dr. Brown, Dr. Pinion, our fire folks, Dr. Haynes, Dr. Hanks back there. I'm trying to name everybody for encouraging students from fire, from EHS to come in here today, guys. I really appreciate that. We certainly want to, ASSE wants to reciprocate these relationships. While we're different, we're very much related. So thanks for supporting us today, Jim coming out. So our group got Jim something. I'm going to let them present it to him. We probably asked that he open one of them here, right?
Yeah, you know, the top one.
Yeah.
So this is on behalf of our super section. We're really honored that you come down to EKU. So it's on behalf of us and all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So yeah, open up that first one. Okay. I used to have my kids open them. They're older now, so they don't do it. Very nice. So what he has, I believe, is a picture of a Kentucky souvenir. It was a Kentucky souvenir that we are not allowed to bring on campus. So it has been shipped to his home and will arrive there. So that's why I was asking for your home address early in the week. So it's a personalized bottle of Woodford Reserve, which will be arriving. We couldn't bring